Welcome. Welcome to this important event for our community. It's an important event because we begin a campus conversation about inclusiveness, diversity, and the future of the University of Louisville. This event demonstrates a commitment to growth and development individually and as a community. The university has always meant one place that includes many, and this is especially true for the University of the 21st century. In such an environment, we may not always be aware of how our actions impact others. We are here today because of this fact. The intentional or unintentional use of stereotypes about historically underrepresented groups has tremendous power to reinforce hegemony, inequity, and contribute to the perpetuation of the status quo. We must recognize that all of the students of color on campus may have the experience of being stereotyped. We know this happens for many communities on campus. As a university, we are dedicated to knowledge, growth, and development. This includes the ability to acknowledge the limits of our knowledge and to commit to corrective action. President Ramsey's message to the campus community last Thursday expressed his sincere regrets and demonstrates a commitment to leading a diverse university. Today, we continue the process of sharing and dialogue with our diverse array of speakers on this panel, and I'd like to personally contribute to this process by sharing information about the Latino community in Louisville and in the state of Kentucky. So Latinos are an emerging group in Kentucky. We represent the fastest growing population, doubling in size from 1990 to 2000, and nearly doubling at the same rate from 2000 to 2010. As a group, we include those who have lived in this country for many generations, those who are recent immigrants and new citizens, those who are living in the United States without legal immigration status, those who speak English, Spanish, and Amerindian language, or just one language, or like me, Spanglish, those who see ourselves as brown, black, indigenous, mestizo, Creole, or white, and those who may see ourselves as Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Guatemalan, or nationals of one of the many countries of Latin America. One of the issues that's been raised by our students is the need for more faculty, staff, and students representing the full diversity of our nation. All students want to see someone like themselves represented in the ranks of faculty, staff, and students at this university. This is true for the fast-growing Latino student population here. In order to ensure that our students see someone like themselves in university administration, the university will need to hire more individuals who are bilingual. Of course, not all Latinos speak Spanish, but this is a key part of meeting the needs of the Latino students here at the University of Louisville. For Latinos, today's discussion comes at a crucial point in our history. Many of us feel that our community is under attack. The debate about immigration reform, although not the only issue of importance to Latinos in the United States, it is one that we keep track of. The divisiveness of the debates, the targeting of Latinos who are recent immigrants as the cause of excessive crime and job loss in our communities is hard to ignore. It is also hard to ignore political candidates that use stereotypes to talk about our community and call us murderers and rapists. I am encouraged, though, by the broad faculty, student, staff coalition on our campus that is investigating the pockets of bias and prejudice that continue to exist. Our students have been passionate, energized, and outspoken. It is the role of students to hold us accountable for the impact of our actions, and it is the role of faculty and administrators to hear their voices and respond with empathy to their needs. We need to pay, of course, a special attention to our students. They are our future leaders. And as President Ramsey noted in his message last week, we must provide an inclusive campus environment that empowers all of us to achieve our highest potential without fear of bias or prejudice. I am optimistic about our joint efforts to foster a truly inclusive environment. I was pleased to see that President Ramsey referred to the university's 2020 plan and the university's commitment to diversity and social justice as integral to our efforts to become a 21st century university. I support our student leaders who have made this effort a key part of their work, and I applaud the faculty and staff, many of whom are on stage here, who have raised their voices in support of our students and have called for new approaches. I am proud to work with this impressive group of committed members of our community. One note about the structure of this event: we are going to hear from a number of speakers this morning. Students leading the campus protests have elected one of their group to speak, Jesus Ibanez, a student at the Brandeis School of Law. Victoria Allen, the president of the Student Government Association, also will speak, and we will hear from her first. Dr. Claudio Maldonado will provide remarks on behalf of the Hispanic Latino Faculty Staff Association. Dr. Maureen Taylor Archer, Vice Provost for Diversity and International Affairs, will introduce Dr. Rickie Jones, Chair of Pan-African Studies, who will also provide remarks. And finally, we will hear from President Ramsey. One final remark. Dialogue and conversation requires civility and respect. And please remember that this is not the only opportunity we will have to have this dialogue. And hopefully some of you have been participating in all of the diversity events that have been happening during this past week, Diversity Week. After the remarks of all of the speakers, we will have a reception in the lobby, and this will be an opportunity to continue this conversation with any of the speakers. All of us welcome your voices, and we hope that you will share your views. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I really appreciate seeing so many bright faces on a Friday morning in particular. I'm going to share a little bit about my experience at the University of Louisville and some of the events that led me to be here today. When I first stepped foot on U of L's campus in the fall of 2012, I never would have expected to have the experiences that have led me here and talking to you guys. College is about more than just obtaining a degree. I can only speak for myself, but myself is exactly who I found while here at U of L. I grew up in a community and in a family that had no one that looks like me. Coming to U of L was to be an opportunity for me to meet new people and join a diverse and inclusive community, and to meet those people and have those role models that look like me, just like Enid said. Over the past several weeks, this feeling of trust and community has been tested. What I know is that through collaborative discussions, such as the one I hope we have here today, that we can come together as a Cardinal family and grow again. For so many of our students, U of L is not just a place they come to go to school, but a place they leave home for. A place they make their home. Today I'm here for those students like myself, who want to begin the journey of ensuring this campus, the home of our Cardinal family, can grow, in order that we together as a university become nothing less than premier for every person who calls U of L home. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jesus Ibanez, and I'm representing the Student Assembly Against Discrimination. First off, I would like to say that we're here today because of student-led efforts. Students such as Talisha Wilson, Jose Lopez, Leonardo Salinas Chacon, Andriana Bridges, Luis Arduz, Sagan Tella, Maya White, Amber Say, Claudia Lopez, Sarah Alvarez, Gabe Draper, Brina Joyner, Tanya Avalos, Caitlin Durgan. And we're also here because of support of faculty and staff such as Sarah Nunez, Dr. Rickie Jones, and Dr. Maureen Taylor Archer. When this picture first circulated, it caused great outrage and sparked protest. The protest was that Friday, and immediately following the protest, the Student Assembly convened that weekend and worked for over 50 hours to try to arrange a meeting with Dr. Ramsey. The meeting was set up for Tuesday, March 3rd, and at the meeting, well, let's just say it could have gone better. After the meeting, the Student Assembly once again reconvened, and we decided that we should work more closely with faculty and staff, and as a result, we selected Dr. Rickie Jones as a liaison for the administration. After a couple of communications with us, Dr. Jones and Dr. Ramsey, we are here today. Now, I would be remiss if I did not bring up the events happening on campuses across the nation. People have asked us for the past couple weeks, is this Mizzou? Well, let me answer that right now. This is not Mizzou. However, we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters across the nation who are fighting injustices. Let me make one thing very clear. President Ramsey made a horrible mistake just like the president in Mizzou. President Ramsey's mistake was born out of lack of knowledge of the culture of Mexicans and Mexican Americans. He was not aware of the racist history towards Mexicans in this country, such as forced deportations under the program Operation Wetback. He was not aware of the lynchings in the Southwest. He was not aware of the de facto segregation that existed in the Southwest. Had President Ramsey known about this, I am sure he would have chosen a different costume that day. Now, the difference between Louisville and Missouri is that President Ramsey is working. He's working toward making this wrong a right. He's working closely with faculty, with staff, and with students. We, the Student Assembly, envision the University of Louisville as a world-renowned research and scholastic environment of the 21st century. We have a cohesive effort to establish adequate resources and infrastructure to fulfill the diversity vision statement. The three expectations of this commitment to diversity are scholarships for diverse students, more diverse faculty and staff, and a building to house the Identity Center. President Ramsey's latest statement to the community closely falls in line with our vision statement. Now, President Ramsey, let me make one thing very clear. We will hold you accountable every step of the way. We want to move forward from this. We want everybody to work together. I said the most beautiful thing that came about this movement was a collaborative effort among students. I mean, this movement was started by 3 Black LGBTQ women, Brina, Tala, and Amber. They deserve a hand of applause. I've learned a lot in the past few weeks from my fellow students, and I leave President Ramsey and the community at large with a challenge. I challenge everybody to get to know a culture that you did not know before. If you are Christian, talk to a Muslim person. If you identify as straight, talk to an LGBTQ person. Get to know that person. If you're a citizen, talk to an immigrant or talk to a refugee. Find out about their life. You will find out that you guys have a lot of similarities, and you will also find out all the stuff you've been missing because you do not know that culture. Thank you, and let's move forward from this.
Buenos dias. My name is Claudio Maldonado, and I'm the co-president of the Hispanic Latino Faculty Staff Association, or HALFA. HALFA was founded about 3 years ago, and its primary mission is to serve as an advisory group to the president on the various Latino issues at the university. Following the Halloween custom incident, the president and the provost, vice provost, we all met, and we had a deep conversation about Latino issues at U of L. And at the meeting, we reached a consensus that the best policy would be to move forward. We submitted a list of recommendations to the president, and most of them dealt or focused on enhancing efforts to recruit and retain Latino students, faculty, and staff. We also urged the president to take a Tom Durich approach to diversity programs, and that is to fully and equally fund them so that they all can be successful in achieving their goals. We also, in closing, what I like to say is that I like to give credit where credit is due. I have been part of the U of L Latino community since 1970. I was a student here, I was the head soccer coach, and I'm now a faculty member at the medical school. And I can tell you firsthand that the 3 previous administrations at the university, they never recognized or even consider addressing Latino issues at the university. In contrast, during President Ramsey's tenure, a number of Latino-oriented programs have been created. These include the Hispanic Latino Initiatives Office, which provides counseling services to Latino undergrad students. A new bachelor's degree in Latin American and Latino studies was also created. Our organization, HALFSA, was also created. And we not only serve as an advisory group to the president, but we also have started programs such as a career mentoring program for undergrad Latinos at U of L. We also started a Spanish language competency program for dental and medical students so that they can better communicate with Latino patients. It's actually a growing number of Latino patients at U of L clinics. I think, of course, that more remains to be done. And President Ramsey should be commended for these efforts. And we are looking forward to working with him on the university's 2020 plan to find solutions and raise awareness to the various diversity issues that U of L and our community face today. Thank you.
I'm going to ask our students to come up. I mean, they have been very pivotal, so you're a part. Let's come up on stage. You know, this is a show of solidarity. It's a show of, not that we're ignoring the problems, but that we're committed to solving them. Thanks to each of you for coming. Regardless of the reason that you came, I interpret your being here as a sign that you care about diversity and the path we will take in the future, and keeping in mind that all of us have a stake in making this a better university. Diversity is not something that we do. At the University of Louisville, it's who we are. So as we see Sue talked about this, but as we see student protests taking place in colleges and universities across the country, I'm reminded of a quote by an indigenous rights activist and Nobel Peace Prize winner from Guatemala, Rigoberta Menchú Tum. She says that peace cannot exist without justice. Justice cannot exist without fairness. Fairness cannot exist without democracy. Democracy cannot exist without respect for the identity and worth of cultures and peoples. While we are gathered here today, you know, and I see all of you here, but we also have the presence of our ancestors here. We have the presence of those who have gone before us and are helping still to guide the way as we pave the way for the future. So I believe that they're saying, yes, we must continue to fight for social justice, and some of that struggle should be focused on national issues. So we should be pressuring Congress to pass immigration reform and the DREAM Act. We should work with the police and the community for reform, because just as other lives matter, Black lives do matter. And we should send friendly but persuasive briefs to the Supreme Court before they rehear the Fisher case, because diversity is still a compelling interest for higher education. These are just some of the things that we need to focus attention on at the national level. I am so pleased and proud of our students. They have built a coalition and alliances that include African American, Hispanic, Latino, LGBT students, and majority students. They have organized and they've been thoughtful in their deliberations. So we should all take pride, and let's just give them a round of applause, please. You know, the other thing I'm proud of is that we have a university and we have a president. We have a president who's committed to diversity. He's demonstrated that commitment. He is going to lead the way for us to have not only diversity as an afterthought, but diversity as integrated into the whole fabric of the university. He will ensure that there will be systemic changes made, policy practice, so that we are all working together on the same page. You know, I wasn't supposed to even make any comments. I made them, I just stole them, I made them, but anyway. So let me just say now I have the honor of introducing my friend and colleague, Professor Rickie Jones. Rickie's from Atlanta. He grew up in a housing project, was accepted into the Naval Academy, then transferred to Morehouse. Although he received his PhD in political science from UK, let me just say this, I don't really remember him talking about UK. I really don't. Like Martin Luther King, Rickie is a Morehouse man, and that far outweighs and trumps anything he did in UK, so yeah. All right. You know, I think he ran from UK to join us at the University of Louisville. He has written, he's a scholar, you know, he's now a full professor and chair of Pan-African Studies. A few Sundays ago, yeah, I am, you know, I go to church, and I am, well, my dad is was a Baptist minister. So a few Sundays ago, our pastor spoke about social change and the role of tree shakers versus jelly makers. He noted that he was a tree shaker. He was not a tree shaker, not real. He is definitely a jelly maker. But I want you to know that Rickie Jones is both. He can agitate, he can stir things up, he can shake the trees, but he's also a very thoughtful scholar, adept negotiator. So he works well both within the system and outside of the system. He can be very outspoken, both through his leadership, his voice, but also through his scholarship. So he is definitely a tree shaker and a jelly maker. Because of his insight and influence on campus, when I first got here, I learned very quickly. You know, when crisis arrives, who do I call? Not Ghostbuster, but call Rickie. And so, you know, I know that he can be, and I know different people have different perceptions of him, because he can be your worst nightmare, or he can be your friend. And I am pleased to call him my friend. So thanks, Rickie.
Thank you for that, Maureen. I appreciate it. I'm not sure exactly what a jelly maker is, but I'll take it. I like jelly. Let me say this, the stage today is reserved for the fighters. That's rare at universities. That's rare in the world. I'm a political scientist, but I don't like politicians. I don't like political advisors, usually because they're going to lie to you. They're going to say the things that are the most safe. They will not answer questions. You can talk to a politician for an hour and you could You get absolutely nothing out of him. You feel like you talked to him for 2 minutes, right? That's why people are supporting Donald Trump, even though he is insane. At least he says what's on his mind, and that's what America's looking for. But you know, so we have people on this stage today, like Avery Kohlers, who brought me to his house to watch football and tried to feed me hummus, which is a strange thing. But he's the head of our social change program, and he is a fighter. I mean, that's why he's on this stage. That's why David Owen, standing in the tradition of John Brown, is on this stage. Y'all know the story of John Brown. John Brown's one of my heroes. I discovered John Brown at the Naval Academy. Didn't see a picture of him. Read a passage about John Brown in a book, and it just struck me. Said, I have a system to destroy, and I have no time to waste. He was talking about slavery. I went back to the dorm, and I told my roommate, we got to get down with this brother. A few days later, I found out he was white. I said, damn. It's a hell of a thing. John Brown got ready to go to Harper's Ferry in Virginia to take over the armory and partner up with the slaves and free everybody. Went to Frederick Douglass and said, Fred, are you going to roll with me? Me and my boys are going to Virginia. You heard me? He said, me and my sons are going. Quite often we'll do stuff, but we're not going to take our kids. This man took his children with him. That's the type of brother that David Owen is. I love him to death. Whenever trouble comes, Mordine may call me, but I call David Owen. Cedric Powell sitting up on this stage, standing in the tradition of Thurgood Marshall. Everybody want to talk about the law. Cedric is the type of brother that'll tell you, do what's right, wait for the law to catch up. Bay Jones, Manolo Medina. Manny is a better man than he is basketball player. We've been playing basketball for years. I love him just the same because he'll fight. That's important. We asked Enid. Enid been here forever, right? And you know what Enid is going to do when trouble comes. She's going to tell you the truth, and that's what we're about today. This is not a let anybody off the hook situation, is it? This is not that type of gathering. This is a gathering of truth, and that's needed. Jesus was absolutely right. You know, give it up to the students. I was a student one day, acting crazy. I get mad at folk that I work with who will say, well, you all outspoken because you tenured now. Let me tell you something. I raised more hell as an assistant professor than I do as a full. So take that as a lesson to our young professors. Silence is always tantamount to agreement. So if you say nothing, you got a problem. So our students have not been silent. But I'll tell you something else about the history and the traditions of the University of Louisville. Our faculty and our staff, some of us, have not been silent either. But we are magnanimous enough to make the place better for the cowards as well. So welcome. We'll take care of you too. We always have. I'll tell you what struck me about the University of Louisville when I came here to interview in 1996. Right upstairs in the Department of Pan-African Studies, I said, man, this feels like a family. That was a hell of a thing. It felt like a family. I had other job offers, but I decided to come to U of L, even though I was leaving UK. And just full disclosure, he got his doctorate from UK too, so I'm not alone. But the question for me in this situation is, what do families do when mistakes happen? What do we do at the University of Louisville when our students make mistakes? They can fail a test, but we don't kick them out of class. They can fail out of school, but we don't kick them out completely. Not at first anyway. You keep on doing the same thing, then yeah, it's over. But we don't throw our people under the bus. So Jesus is right. This is not Missouri. It's not Yale. It's not Ithaca College. It's definitely not the University of Alabama or Arkansas, right? This is a place where we have problems. We always will. Everybody will have problems. It's not about the problems that you have or the mistakes that you make. It's about how you handle them. That's what's so incredibly important and what we have been so good at in my almost 20 years here. I have been proud to be a member of the University of Louisville family. But I can't say that's been the case all the time. We've lost our way at points. That's what happens. But that's when families come together, right? Families come together and we make things right and we push forward. Being a politician, being a bureaucrat who goes into bunkers and says nothing, that doesn't work. Jim Ramsey, though, is not Tim Wolf. Tim Wolf himself admitted that his inactivity turned that school into a veritable wildfire. We don't want that here. We have a choice here at the University of Louisville, really. And the choice is simple. We can get in a phone booth, box and burn and beat each other to death if we choose. Or we can come together, embrace one another, and try to move forward. Look, what the president did was dead wrong. He said that. Let whoever, I'm gonna be a preacher right now, let he who is without sin stand up and cast a stone. I know I ain't casting no stone, I'm a died in the wool sinner. Made many mistakes. If there's a hell, I'm on the Hell Express. And many of you are with me. So let's not be so incredibly self-absorbed and self-righteous that we take him or anybody else because they make a mistake and toss them under the bus and be done with them and treat them like a dog to be left laying in the street. That's problematic. Somebody asked me a couple of things. They said, well, should the Mexicans have been offended by what happened Halloween? Doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal to me. And I said, well, you need to ask the Mexicans. It's not my place to decide what offends them. As I've said to people, you know, you dress up in blackface, then you ask me. After I beat the hell out of you, I'll give you the answer. You ask our Native American brothers and sisters if the Washington Redskins nickname is offensive. That's for them to decide, right? Let's not be so arrogant, privileged, and insensitive that we think we can decide for other groups what is offensive to them. But once they tell us, so once they tell us, it's up to us as human beings overall, and University of Louisville family members in particular, to make adjustments. That's incredibly important. Diversity, real diversity, is really important. I've said this 100 times and I'll say it again. We need to get beyond the point, and our white brothers and sisters need to get beyond the point where they're just hiring and hanging out with safe black folk, safe Hispanic folk, folk who are so interested in getting along that their culture gets tossed to the wayside and they'll be the first one to criticize their own people and condemn them to endear themselves to the folks that they think are their friends because they look a little bit different. You are tokens. You are no good to any of us. You take us down dangerous paths. You are no good for diversity. You are no good for progress. All this colorblind foolishness is just that, foolishness. I don't trust anybody who says, oh, I don't see race. Because it's a lie, right? What this is really about is the politics of difference. I can look out at you and see that there are white people out here, that there are Hispanic and Latino brothers and sisters out here, and you can see that I'm black. The reality needs to be, though, when we get to a good place is we say to each other, you're no better and you're no worse than me because you look different. That's where we need to be. So hang out with some people that will actually be brave. Let's get to a point where being brave is not an anomaly, right? That should not be a diversion from the norm. That should be the norm. So somebody can say, hey, Mr. President, this might not be a good move, man. He's like, oh, this is offensive? Yeah, let's get rid of these sombreros then. Easy peasy, move forward. Last question, though, was, is Jim Ramsey a racist? You know, and I answer that question very easily all the time. Hell no. He's not a racist. All of us do some things that are racially insensitive here and there. That's the type of culture that we live in. But being a racist is a terrible, terrible thing. That is a person with a dark soul, trapped in a past of oppression, inhumanity, indecency, and hellishness. That's what a racist is. I've been here, I've seen racists. I've seen racists on this campus. Folks who hadn't been here for a while. I remember because students brought Sister Soldier to speak some time ago. Y'all remember that, those who've been here long enough. And some people were pissed off about it, and the Ku Klux Klan came to this campus. This man right here stood with me. He might have been a little scared. He stood with me and friends of mine. We saw racists then. The head of the Klan, a cat named Jim Kennedy. Am I lying? You share his name, but that don't mean anything bad. Jim Kennedy been blind since birth. It's like that episode from the Chappelle Show, from the black white supremacists. But this is real. He's been blind since birth, never seen a black person, but hates us just the same. And Jim Ramsey, this man right here, said to me, Ricky, what can I do? How should we move? Didn't know what to do, but asked. I got love for that. When this happened, he sent me an email that was so incredibly heartfelt. And I said to Jim, I'm like, yo, what didn't I tell you? I said, man, if you would have sent this to me, rather than that bull that was released from your office in the first place, this stuff wouldn't have happened. To the president's advisors, get some bravery. Advise them correctly. And to the president, don't listen all the time. That's important. People should not be misrepresented. I mean, this is the same man that's taken hits over the years because he gave same-sex partner benefits to our LGBT workers and faculty here. Took hits. The homophobes know who they are. Yeah? Who against gay marriage. I mean, the heterosexual divorce rate is well over 50%. 60% in some communities. So it seems to me that the straight people been screwing it up. Let's give our gay brothers and sisters a chance to get it right, if they can. Right? That's real. Now I don't want to go on too long. I want to get Jim up here. This is a positive time. And I understand for our friends in the media, some of the negative stuff is sexier, right? Train wrecks are always sexier. But this is a positive thing of people coming together and trying to move forward as a community. Hopefully it will be reported as such. A reporter was talking to me a couple weeks ago and kept wanting to talk about the first student meeting with the president. I'm like, you do realize that's over. And we're trying to move forward, right? Not to dismiss it, we learn, we move forward. That's what we demand of our students, that's what we demand of ourselves. But look, we got trouble here. I'm not trying to hide that from you. Nobody's trying to hide that from you. You understand? We're being tested by a troubling and public situation with our basketball team that poses legitimate questions, though, about where individual responsibility ends and institutional culpability begins. We need to have that conversation. Why is it that we have a situation, if nobody wants to talk about it, where one person can do something, nothing else has been proven, and a university can be held responsible? That's not just about the University of Louisville. That's about universities all over this country. That's about organizations all over this country. President can't speak to it because the lawyers say he can't. I can. I don't listen to lawyers. Don't like them too much either. But those are questions that we have to face. We got to face that as a campus community. We have very real issues of compensation with our faculty and staff here. Many of my colleagues will say, what is a fair salary for some of the most intelligent, terminally degreed people on the planet? That has to be spoken to. Am I right? That has to be spoken to. We have climate issues that we have to deal with. We have some people that have come to the University of Louisville haven't been here that long. They need to understand how we do things, the good things that we do. We've had a few scandals over the years, starting in the School of Ed. Y'all know this. It's real. So we've had a handful of people commit financial impropriety at our university. And now we've been saddled with such incredibly confusing and cumbersome financial protocols that it makes it difficult for administrative faculty and staff to do their jobs. We need to speak to that. I mean, that's real. These are things that we need to look at. As I've written, even though we have this beautiful Freedom Park over here as you walk over to Gray's bookstore in that little plaza, which is great. One of my mentors, Blaine Hudson's picture is up there. We still got a big-ass Confederate statue on our campus. I mean, a lot of people don't like it. Hell, Kentucky wasn't even in the Confederacy. So why we got a Confederate statue? We don't even know who owns the land or the statue half the doggone time. Maybe we need to speak to that. These conversations shift. And everybody said, well, you want to take down all the Confederate statues? Well, I wouldn't mind. We do need academic and cultural facilities like the Identity Center that was raised that rival our athletic facilities. If we can have state-of-the-art athletic facilities, let's have state-of-the-art academic facilities, state-of-the-art identity facilities. But most of all, what we need to remember and what we need to do as I bring Jim up. Jim's a good man. I don't say that about many people. Good men take criticism, of course. They have to be open to it. And good men are hated by some people. You know, my granddaddy told me never trust a man that everybody likes, or a woman. You know why? Because it means they don't stand for anything. That's very true. I get hate mail all the time. I'm right to get hate mail because there's so many screwed up people in this city and in the country that if you ain't getting hate mail, if you're not pissing them off, you're doing something wrong, right? So you take that. Jim's a good man, but what we need to do, I think, is reestablish communication and reestablish trust amongst ourselves. So if something bad happens, we can talk to each other and not burn each other down. Hopefully this is the first step to us moving beyond what we've been through and dealing with the issues that we're facing. So Jesus is right. The president needs to be held responsible. I need to be held responsible. Our students need to be held responsible. You all need to be held responsible. We in this together. We got to be. I didn't go to school here, but I think this is one of the greatest universities in this country. I wouldn't have stayed here for almost 2 decades if I didn't. And I think great universities are made great because they are populated by great, caring, intelligent, humane people. And I have full faith that this is the start of showing once again that this is the right man to lead us forward. So don't you think about resigning, man, especially after today, because there'll be some people who are angry, and maybe I'll become president, and then we'll really be in trouble. Let's all say family. Family. President Ramsey.
Thank you, Rickie, and thank you for your amazing leadership. To each of our speakers, thank you. To our students, thank you. To each of you for being here, we appreciate you taking time to join us. October 28th was our President's Office Staff Halloween Luncheon. Rightly or wrongly, after that day, I had to decide whether or not I would continue with some of my scheduled events or would go a different route. I had some trips scheduled, and one was to recruit students in the city of Chicago. And I made that trip that Sunday following the incident. I was there Sunday and Monday. I visited 2 pretty amazing high schools. One was a public charter school, South Chicago, 100% minority students, 100% college-going rate. The other school was public school, Kenwood Academy, again, South Chicago. And again, an amazing school with very high college-going rate and very high percentage of minority students. Those trips are good for me. They invigorate me. They get me excited about what we're doing here at the University of Louisville when students want to learn more about us. I want you to hold those statistics, though, on their college-going rates for a moment, and we'll come back to that. When I returned, I began to meet with campus groups and individuals on campus to discuss how we as a campus could, in fact, move forward. I learned a lot during those discussions, and I have a lot more to learn, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Victoria Allen and a story that she told me about how sometimes we can hurt people and not even know that we've hurt them. And it made me realize that I've hurt the very people that we're here to serve, that I'm here to serve, and that is our students. I learned that there are things that we're doing that we shouldn't do. I've learned that we're not doing things that we should do. I've heard of instances of policies and procedures and searches where we go through the process, but we're just kind of going through the process. Our heart isn't in it. I've learned more about our admissions process, student services, our space needs, staffing needs, and much, much more. I had the opportunity to meet an outstanding, amazing individual that is with us on stage today, Sarah Nunez. And I was so impressed that she left her position at another school not that long ago and believed in us and what we could do and what we could achieve, that she came here. And in the flick of an eye, I just made her job a lot more difficult. I went back to visit Sarah after our first meeting, and I wanted to spend more time with her and understand what the program needs of her area were, and she was very excited. We had a group of students from Southern High School. She had a group of students from Southern High School on campus. And many of the students spoke different languages, and we didn't have the translators to be there and help the students understand everything that we had to offer and why those students should come to the University of Louisville. I got an opportunity to meet with some of those students, and then I got an invitation last Friday to come to Southern High School on Monday of this week. And I went. It was the kickoff of their college application week. And their counselors there are working very hard to encourage those high school students to understand the importance of education and continuing their education. And so they've worked hard to get those students to apply to colleges and universities and community colleges. And their application rate is about 98%. But unlike Urban Prep in Chicago and unlike Kenwood Academy in Chicago, their college going rate's about 40%. So we have a lot more to do in that area. I learned more, much more than I could go through here. I've had the opportunity to personally reflect, and I've prayed for forgiveness and guidance. When I worked for Governor Patton back 18 years ago, I was at another university at the time, and when Governor Patton got elected, I didn't know him, hadn't worked in his campaign. But he said he wanted to be the higher education governor, and so I had an opportunity to work in his administration and work on the Post-Secondary Education Reform Act of 1997. And while that was a long bill, 200 pages in length, it was a very simple bill. It was about a better Kentucky. It was about a better quality of life. It was about improved economic opportunity through education. And those are the things that I believed in. Governor Patton used to talk about, in his lifetime, what he called defining moments. And they were those instances where something happened and it changed the direction of his life for years to come. I've told the story of one of my defining moments many times, and I'll tell it again real quickly for you. It was 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember exactly how long. And someone in our development staff wanted me to play golf with two potential donors to the university. It was a hot Saturday, and I'm a lousy golfer. And these two individuals were very good golfers. And so I was just struggling and embarrassing myself. But finally, on the 15th hole, one of the individuals, and I didn't know either of these individuals before we went out to play golf. But one of the individuals on the 15th hole, which toward the end of the round, came up and put his arm around me and said, "Thank you. Thank you. Your university saved my son's life." His son was gay, and the father and mother had rejected their son. He was within a week of committing suicide. But that young man got in touch with Brian Buford, and Brian saved his life. And at the Feast of Equality 2 years ago, there they were together, celebrating at the Feast of Equality as one family. That was a defining moment for me because it made all the hate mail that I was getting with regard to health insurance for domestic partners and for creating the first LGBT center and for taking a stand against Chick-fil-A. It made all the hate mail, Rickie, it made it go away and be totally unimportant. The events of the last couple weeks, going back to October 28th, in total, in bringing together, I think, will be another defining moment, not only for me, or is a defining moment for me, but for this university. As we've held these discussions over the last 2 weeks, I realized that while I wanted to say something to the campus community, for whatever set of reasons, I needed to have these conversations. And so I waited and spoke to the campus community last Wednesday. It came from me, not from someone in communications, not from my chief of staff, but it came from me. The past year, Jane and I have been thinking about a lot of things. I've been here in this job 14 years, and that's a long time. Been at this campus 17 years, the most longest tenure I've had at any school or any job. We've gone through some personal hurts over the last 2 years with loss of loved ones, and without question, I would be less than honest if I didn't say there have been professional hurts over the last year as well. But as I stand here today, I remember the words, or reflect back on the words Rickie mentioned at Ithaca College. And their president wrote in the Chronicle this week, it's time for leaders to step up, not to step down. So I ask that you give me the opportunity to step up. I need your help. I need your support. We need to come together as one. My devotional reading for November 3rd, shortly after the event, has colored my thinking as well. On that day, the reading said, reframe setbacks and mistakes as opportunities. You can gain more than you lost. And I believe that is to be the case. We are at a unique time in the life of the University of Louisville. We have our 2020 plan, but under Neville's leadership, we're moving forward with the implementation of the recommendations from the University of the 21st Century. And a huge chunk of that is student success and what do we need to do to make sure that our students are successful. It's an interesting time because after 4 or 5 years of discussion, the Council on Post-Secondary Education is finally trying to come up with a way to develop a meaningful diversity policy process that will govern all of higher education and be a replacement to the plans that we've had in the past that were part of what were called the Kentucky Plan. As requested by our students, I pledge to you that I will be accountable to you, the campus, but more importantly, I'll be accountable to myself. As we move forward, we'll be thorough, we'll be comprehensive, and voices will be heard. All voices will be heard. We will follow through on what I said in my email to the campus community, but we'll go well beyond that. We'll be talking about resources, staffing, space, policies and procedures. We'll be taking a hard look at how to make our search processes reflect what we believe in and what we stand for. And just as important, we'll address the key issues that Rickie referred to, and those are issues that we've known we needed to do something about, going back to our SWOT analysis that was done as part of the University of the 21st Century and the discussions that Provost Willingantz had around great places to work. And those are the issues of trust on campus. And as Rickie said, the deep-seated cultural issues that underpin our university. We'll improve upon our current metrics that we're held accountable for, and we will not let budget cuts be an excuse. And as I said in my email, this will not be a zero-sum game. I believe that it is my responsibility to step up and help us be what we want to be, and that is an inclusive university that leads. I also want to comment on another point that Rickie made, and then one other final point. It is my responsibility to lead the investigation of the NCAA allegations, to get to the bottom of what happened or didn't happen, and then take whatever actions need to be taken. And finally, it is my responsibility to address the very important issue, not as well known, but very important, of addressing what we have to do to strengthen our clinical programs and ensure the viability of our clinical programs as we move forward. For you see, it is our doctors, our nurses, our clinicians, our technicians that provide the very best in quality health care to all people in this community. Not just some, not just those that can pay, but to all people. I'm going to conclude my remarks by reflecting back on my inauguration speech of 2003. In that speech, I outlined what I felt that we as a campus community needed to commit to and achieve over a period of time. And as I reached the end of that, I said, speaking from the heart, we must recommit ourselves to the values that will never fail us. Values that will not allow us to deviate from the dreams and the deeds that must be performed to achieve our goals. We value honesty, openness, and fairness. Nothing is more important. We value respect for all individuals, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, age, socioeconomic status, disability, religion, national origin, military status, and position at the university. I told the story that I'd read of President Johnson visiting the Houston Space Center, and the first person that he met was a custodian. And President Johnson said, "You're the most important person here, because if you don't keep the Space Center clean and functional, our engineers can't put a man on the moon." Everyone on our campus is important, critically important to our success. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you for being here and joining together as a family, as Rickie Jones said, and stepping up together to make this place the best it can be on a road that we all will share. So thank you, President Ramsey. We appreciate your commitment and your heartfelt words that I think resonate with all of us, and we all sincerely appreciate everything that you're doing.